Now that we're preparing for summer workouts, we've got to talk about some of the transfer players that came in that I think might be super impactful, right? There's one in particular that jumped out to me coming into this season that a lot of you, we may have just kind of glossed over him joining the team. Now, as we know with the Sooners, we added some players on the defensive side of the ball. We added offensive guys. And one of the big conversations has been around the offensive line and how we're going to shore that up, right? Then we got on the defensive line, and one of the big things was getting that interior base going. But I'm telling you, man, those edges are going to be gnarly when it gets to the SEC games, and they're going to be nasty throughout the entire season. So let's look at one of them, one that I think you all should be talking a lot more about and really keeping an eye on. So before we do that, welcome to Unfair Sports. I'm your host, Jay. Thank y'all for pulling up to the channel. So let's dive in. Caden Woolard, I'm telling y'all right now, nasty. Let's look at this. Let me explain to y'all why I think he's going to be that player that jumps out. And it'll be him and one other that's really going to make an impact that y'all not ready for. Let's dive into this. So remember when Caden got here, came from Miami of Ohio as a graduate transfer. And I mean, the numbers themselves jumped out big time. And like I said, I feel like he was one that was really glossed over in his ability. I mean, he had 41 total tackles last season with 12 tackles for a loss, as well as 9.5 sacks last season. And his team, of course, won the MAC championship. And he was the anchor, the leader of that defense. And just watching him go out there and play, dude, there's going to be something scary about him, right? He's going to cause some problems. I mean, he's already a big dude. He came in 6'4", 261, and it's funny. Met his dad at the spring game. We chatted for a bit, Jay. Appreciate you chopping it up with me. And the interesting thing, too, is he was like, he was joking and saying, hey, just go ahead and toss about, 20, 30 pounds on him, which he probably can do this summer. Throw him on the interior if you really need to. And that's not something I doubt that can be happened with him, right? In watching him play and watching the highlights and him go, Caden's going to bring a motor that we may not have seen in a while. Like, it's funny because I look at Ethan Downs, right? Last season, Ethan Downs was picked to be, he had things like honorable mention or actually second team All Big 12. And a few fans I've actually saw on social media was like, Ethan, like you see him, but no Danny Stutzman recognition, blah, blah, blah. And, everybody's kind of questioning what Downs is going to be able to provide. And then Downs went out there, he had a pretty solid season. And then in that Red River, he had those 2 sacks? He was out there, he was cooking with gas. So we knew that he had a special talent and he had the capabilities of doing things. But then we still had the young players. You had R. Mason Thomas, who couldn't get off of injuries, but when he was healthy, he was balling out. You saw some Rondell Bothroyd. You saw some Trace Ford. And the funny thing is, you've got Trace Ford coming back. You got Ethan Downs coming back. PJ as well as R. Mason Thomas will also be rotating. Ethan Downs also. But when we added Caden, it's funny because I looked at the article when they were talking about Caden was talking about why he picked Oklahoma. Miguel Chavis reached out to him. He FaceTimed him immediately after he gave him his number when he hit the portal. And he said just the vibes were there. And I sensed that, right? I sensed that in his personality that he's one of those players that's just going to go out there and work. He's a big boy. I mean, 6'4", 260, and he moves like this. Imagine Schmitty getting him up there to 270 and he maintains his speed. He's going to be a beast. It's going to be hard to take him off the field because of the talent that he's going to be able to display. And so when I see that, I'm like, okay, you got him, Downs, then Trace Ford, PJ, and then R. Mason. That's just the young guys, right? And then we're not even going into the freshmen like a Daniel Okoye or whatnot. That edge room that Miguel Chavis is working with, if he gets that figured out and we're not dealing with a bunch of max protects, or we can get so much push in the interior that these edges can just go and do their thing, I anticipate us terrorizing the SEC a lot more than people anticipate, right? Just the sheer fact that 6'4", 260 plus pounds of Woolard is going to be out there chasing. He's going to be a nightmare for quarterbacks. He's going to be terrorizing them. And I love that. That's that piece right there for me. Shout out to Miguel Chavis of immediately catching on to Caden, hitting the portal and going right after him. And I really do feel like we glossed over the talent and the capabilities he's had. So I wanted to focus on him and talk through him. Hop in the comments. How y'all feel about Caden? Y'all see a path for him being someone that's a brutal person to try to block in the SEC this coming season? You should all see that out of him. Because to even add to that, he came from Miami of Ohio, of course. I mean, that's a lot of people like to rebut that. Oh, he came from, G5. What's going to be so special about that? Remember, I think about players moving up from G5, even D2 or whatever. I think of them as players coming from JUCO. They just need to go, refine their skills. He's coming in at 260, so he's got the size already. And at 6'4", he's going to be hard to guard, right? And so when I look at that, and this is kind of where it leads into me talking about who I think with him is going to be a problem. I think Trace Ford's going to step up like crazy this coming season, right? I already know that Ethan Downs is going to give you good numbers, right? But I think Trace Ford's going to go out there and he's going to have himself he's going to have a spectacular season coming in, as a graduate, as a super senior, that veteran presence. I think him and R. Mason Thomas are really going to do it. You're going to see a jump out of them. But PJ, once he's nice and healthy, last year was a freshman. This next season, we may be talking about him and Daniel Okoye being the big time future for 2025. PJ just needs to continue to get his technique down, and he's going to continue to be a freak. Next season may be it too. So this edge room is the one, to me. Yeah, we talk heavy about the interior because you have to. That's needed in the SEC to survive. You're going against a lot of big lines and big players. But the agility and ability we have on the edge, because, you can move those guys in. Like Caden, at his size, you can move him into like a 4-eye. He could even possibly play 3 technique, to be honest. I think he's strong enough to do that. But then you're going to, with Ethan and then having R. Mason, the defensive front is going to be a lot better than y'all expect. And then, of course, adding Dominic along with Dejon Terry, who's ready to just get his revenge in the SEC. Next season is going to be fun. So looking at these players, hop in the comments. Love to hear from you all. Who do you think is going to be the standout guy on the edge that's going to make a difference? Because me personally, I'm heavy on Mr. Woolard. You made it this far, like the content, hit that like button. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. Love for y'all to join this family. We got a lot more videos coming down the line. We are in OV season, so we've got to get ready to start level setting, preparing ourselves for commitment season, because that's what happens in June and July. So, all right, talk soon. Peace.